The Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association presents Freshman Focus, a look at 2-year-olds in training across the Buckeye State. Freshman Focus is presented by El Dorado Scioto Downs. Racing begins May 8th with the next generation July 5th. By Sugar Valley Farm. Looking for your next quality standard-bred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. By Prolific Equine, managing stallions and mares to create champions. By the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, caring down to a science. And by Wire-to-Wire Wealth, strategies tailored to your needs.
Welcome to another edition of Freshman Focus. We've made the trip to the Delaware County Fairgrounds here in Delaware, the home of the Little Brown Jug. Today we'll be speaking with trainer Brian Brown about 12 of his Ohio breds in training for the 2025 racing season. After these messages, we'll sit down and talk with trainer Brian Brown.
At Ohio State's Galbraith Equine Center, our veterinary champions are here for your champions 24/7, 365 days a year. Our expert team of boarded surgeons, sports medicine and rehabilitation specialists, together with veterinary cardiologists, internal medicine, and ophthalmologists, make our hospital your best resource for all sport horse performance issues. The Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center's Galbraith Equine Hospital. Call us today at 614-292-6661.
With over 30 years of experience in wealth planning and a lifetime of involvement in harness racing, Matt Franklin at Wire-to-Wire Wealth can help you build a financial plan that addresses the unique circumstances of those involved in the horse racing industry. Whether you are investing to build wealth, protect your family, or preserve your assets, Matt at Wire-to-Wire Wealth will work with you through the wealth planning process from start to finish.
Welcome back to Freshman Focus with Brian Brown. Brian, just got back from Florida a couple weeks ago, and was there much change with your stable this year when they came north?
No different than normal years. Now, when we first got back here, the first 2 days, it was in the 70s. It was really nice, and it's been awful since. It's been either raining, cold. Today it's cold, windy, and damp. So it hasn't been a very good 2 weeks since we've been back, other than the first 2 days.
Have you ever considered staying in Florida a little longer?
I have. I'd love to. I need to get the 3-year-olds back at this time so they can get started. 1 year I left 2-year-olds down there for an extra month. It worked out good. But I don't really have the people now that I could do that with. I have one guy that I would really like for him to stay, and I'd feel confident leaving them with him. And he doesn't want to stay. You know, he has grandkids up here too, so I understand that's one of the main reasons why I want to come back early. So it may even come to the point where I'll stay an extra month and send him up sometime.
You've reached that magic age of 60, and grandkids are even more important to you now.
They mean everything to us now. I can remember when I first started having children, and my father told me, you'll enjoy your grandkids more than your kids because you'll have more time for them. You know, when you're having your own kids, you're out working and running and trying to make a living to support everybody. So you get a little older, then things settle down a lot, and he was 100% right.
Yeah. Now, you have to be proud, extra proud of your son, your son-in-laws, and the whole family. It's quite a family involvement in harness racing.
Yeah, we have my son and daughter-in-law are both trainers. My son drives, my son-in-law drives, my daughter's a trainer. I have a niece, a couple nephews that are in the horse business yet, and at one time most of those worked for me. And there's nothing better in life. I've never won the jug, but I've never won a race that I was prouder or happier than when my kids do well.
family reunions, though. Is there any other topic besides harness racing?
Oh, there's a lot of topics, and in our house it gets pretty loud.
Okay. The stable is a little smaller this year.
Yes, and we didn't have a very good year last year. It's probably one of the worst years I've ever had. So we didn't have as much to buy with, and people just didn't reinvest as much. But to be honest, I think it's worked out okay. We've done all right ourselves, and the stable's doing okay.
You are correct, but your stable did make $1 million last year. Just for the record, I think it was $1,105,000. You've had 13 straight years of $1 million earnings each of those years. It was a low point, but harness racing is pretty tough in the Buckeye State anymore.
It's very tough in Ohio. It's actually, I think, especially the overnight racing, I think is as tough in Ohio as it is anywhere in the country, and it's probably tougher than most places. Now,
you don't have too many older horses in your stable, though, do you?
I have two. I have one 4-year-old that's coming back, and one 5-year-old Cipher that is a pretty nice horse. If he can stay healthy, I expect him to race in the bigger races.
So when you get your stable set up, who primarily chooses the horses? Or is it a meeting of the minds, or does it fall on your shoulders?
No, that doesn't fall on me at all. Now, a couple like the Pennsylvania ones kind of gravitate toward one groom, and because she doesn't mind going on the road as much. But we let the grooms kind of pick which ones they want after the sales. And they get to look at each horse we buy, and they know who young horses that are coming. And then when they're done picking, whatever's left over, my wife and them will sit down and say, you want a 2-year-old filly or a yearling filly, yearling colt. Some of them don't want too many colts.
You know, some would say that Jenny probably works harder than Brian Brown.
Mentally, for sure she does, because she spends a lot of time behind the computer. Every day, at least 3 to 4 hours. Sunday is probably 6 or 8 hours. So she keeps on top of all that. She keeps us all these charts so that we can, things just run a lot smoother when we have a plan.
One time this morning we saw her walking from one barn to another barn, and she's on her phone doing things like that. So she's, if it's not a computer at home, it's on her phone.
Right. We have a group text for the barn. We have some owners group texts, and plus, today she was helping us jog. We have another rider coming out of Florida that doesn't come till the 1st of May, so she has to fill in till he gets here.
Getting back to the employees, most important part of the operation, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I'm sitting in here where it's warm and out of the rain, and they're still down there putting horses away. So, without them, we have no chance.
Is it hard to find good employees?
Well, it's hard to find employees, let alone really good ones. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know why, but the whole world seems to be changing this way, and the horse business is I think even harder on people because there are so much time involved. But also these grooms, the same as me, my wife, the owners, you're emotionally invested in this too. And when something happens to one, it hurts. So it takes a different person to be a groom than a factory worker.
With a lot of 3-year-olds in your barn this year, it's added problems when you get up here because you got some horses that are starting to race and things, and you still got to jog and train other horses in the daytime. So it's more than just an 8-hour work day.
It's a lot more than an 8-hour work day. If we have to ship the Hoosier or the Meadows, even with one horse, that groom could have 15 hours in that day racing one horse by the time they leave and get back home. We hire a girl that her job is to fill in for people if they have to leave. This Friday's going to be a little tough because we're going to qualify 5 or 6 at Miami, plus race 2 at Hoosier. So usually you have to leave fairly early from here to get to Hoosier on time. So we got to get done and get down to Miami, be there 11 o'clock to warm up. So that's going to be a tough day, but how it goes, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. You've chose 12 horses to take a look at, your Ohio breds. Dominated, of course, by Down by the Seaside, and then you're still kind of prejudiced towards those to some degree, aren't you?
Yes, and it's mainly our owners, some of my owners own a piece of him yet, but he's been very good to me. So yes, we side with him. We have, I think, 4 summa cum laudes that I'm very happy with. So that's still that Some Beach line. I mean, Some Beach, he won the West, got me really rolling, even though I didn't train him when he was racing. And then the Some Beach line, I bought 5 of those Some Beaches the first crop, and they were really good horses. And we've had several since. So the summa cum laude, the Down by the Seaside, I think they're really going to carry Ohio.
Now, is this the first crop of summa cum laudes hitting the racetrack?
Yes.
How do you compare them with the Down by the Seasides?
Right now, they're just as good, and the 4 I have, one of them we had to geld because he wasn't paying attention. Now he's starting to get it. The other 3 have been like race horses early.
A lot of trainers, it's almost a given that they're going to geld them, but you wait until you actually have to do it.
That's part more owner preference, probably. I would probably geld some quicker, and I've held on to some that I thought were really nice horses that I should have gelded earlier, and they'd have been better horses. So, it goes both ways. Sometimes we wish we hadn't have gelded one. One the West was a gelding, made almost $4 million. We'd love to seen him staying stud, but when you talk to Ronnie Burke and Dave Pallone, they said he made almost $4 million because he was a gelding. Yeah. So it goes both ways.
Well, you can race a gelding a little longer than you can.
You can, but you have to have, if you have a stud, you have to have the one with the right mind.
Yeah.
They sometimes they get to thinking other things than racing, and then all of a sudden they're not who they're supposed to be.
Yeah. How important is the dam?
Oh, to me, it's more. There's certain studs I like, and I really like Seaside. I really like these summa cum laudes. I like Catch the Fire. So, those are studs I look for when I'm opening the book and going through. Might be a few studs I would even pass over, but when you're turning that page down, it's because of the mare, the family on the mare's side, how that's produced. If I buy it Down by the Seaside and the first and second, third dams are very short on that page, it's probably not a very good investment.
Yeah. So it's maybe not an equal combination, but it's as important.
I believe so. I believe it's probably more important, but to give you a percentage, I don't know.
Now, when we tape this, it's a couple of weeks before airing, so we'll understand that. How much have you been with your 2-year-olds?
When we left Florida, the majority of them had been 18 to 20, and one group had been behind, which they didn't start till like the 1st of January. The rest were going in October, November. And so they were in 25 one time before we left. Since I've been up here, I've been 22 to 25, just, trying to get them to acclimate to here.
Now, will you have qualifying days here at Delaware this year?
Sure. I think we looked at it the other day. I think it's June 17th and the 24th.
17th, 24th. So they won't actually see any action until those qualifiers, or will you send some down to Scioto Downs as well?
No, we'll start out here. Now, we did leave enough room for anybody that hopes to go in the new generation. It's still, I believe, a week in between there where you could come here and still go to Scioto if you wanted to go a third time or be on a bigger track, whatever your preference is. But we start a little bit early just because of that race anymore.
You train here on a half-mile track. Most of the racing's on a 5/8 mile track, 3 tracks with the 5/8. You got Northfield and a half. Is it important to start out on a half-mile track, you think?
Well, I think when it comes to racing, I think it's much easier because if they can get around a half, they'll get around the 5/8 even easier. So you don't have to worry about that. If you trained on a 5/8 or a mile, you might be a little more nervous going to a half the first time.
Yeah.
But going from a half to a 5/8, I never worry.
I don't think I've ever asked a trainer this, but we have a lot of trainers that train at county fairgrounds in the state of Ohio and maybe have farm tracks and such. Training here at Delaware, Ohio has to be a big plus.
Well, it does in the fact that when I trained in Upper Sandusky, and it was a decent track, but I still wore borium on my horses, 2 dots, all 4 toes. And I raced a lot more at the fairs then. So, the tracks were always looser. It just helped you. Horses wouldn't make breaks as much. They got to hold the track better. When you train here, the last thing you want is borium. Now, in the winter, you have to have borium. But we go to Scioto and Northfield, Miami, Dayton. We don't use borium down there either.
Now, Delaware per se, I've always heard people say horses will have no trouble getting around Delaware because it's almost shaped like a 5/8 mile track, and it's not a normal half-mile racetrack.
That's true in the fact that the turns are wider. The stretches are much shorter. It's a little harder to race here because you can't close as well because you have a short stretch, but it's nicer getting around these turns.
Do you ever have many young horses have trouble getting even around Delaware's track?
Sure, and we always worry about that when we buy a bigger horse. Are they going to get around the turns and everything? The one thing I found out is it really isn't the size of the horse, it's more the soundness of the horse. Now, that doesn't mean some big horses don't have more trouble, but if you're ever going to have a horse that can get around the half, it's Delaware.
Well, Brian, we thank you for spending some time with us this morning because we realize we kind of throw a monkey wrench into your operation, but working with Brian Brown, you sure make it easy for us.
Well, we do that because we appreciate what you guys do, and it wasn't a very nice day for you guys to be standing outside doing all this. So we appreciate what you guys do, so we try to make it the best we can for you.
Well, we thank you for that. And after this message, we'll return and Ashley Daly will take Brian Brown. They'll take a close look and talk about each of the Ohio breds in training in the Brown stable.
Racing returns to El Dorado Scioto Downs. Catch the excitement all summer long beginning May 8th. Live racing every Tuesday through Saturday nights. First race post time is 5:45. Mark your calendar to see the future stars with the $150,000 Next Generation July 5th. Thrilling harness racing at El Dorado Scioto Downs. Horse players can earn points with the Caesars Rewards program. El Dorado Scioto Downs. Racing returns May 8th.
Captain Kirk is standing his second year in 2025 here in the state of Ohio, and he's attracting some of the best broodmares in the entire industry. You want to breed to a stallion that can step your mare up. And if you're breeding to sell those foals, you have to breed to the stallion that the biggest bidders will pay a premium to acquire. Captain Kirk stands at Winterwood Farm, and his introductory stud fee of only $3,000 ends after the 2025 season. So book your mare today. Write down this website. Go to CaptainKirkInfo.com to get all the details right now.
Our first stop is a 2-year-old colt pacer, Hagrid, a down by the seaside out of Hen Party, a roll with Joe mare. Now, Brian, he was actually a $90,000 purchase out of the Lexington selected sale.
Yes, he come from Crawford Farms. He was a good-looking colt then, but we really liked the seaside to roll with Joe mare. That cross has been pretty good, and not only for us, for other people. And of course, his mother, I don't know how much she made, but probably close to $500,000. So it was a pretty good family.
I was going to say, so his mom does have quite the resume, and she's pretty recent. I think her last big year racing might have been 2020. She made almost $600,000. Took a mark in 49 in a piece.
Yeah. Tony Alanya raced her. She was a very good horse.
I do believe that this is the first colt out of that mare. Any kind of superstition when it comes to?
No, we like first folds. We pay more, but I usually don't hold the second fold. If the first one doesn't race, I don't hold it against the mare, because I've went back and bought horses the second time I bought first fold, and the second one could be much better looking. Just something the first one didn't have that the second one looks better. So I try not to hold it against them. Now, of course, if the mare's 0 for 3, then probably not looking at that. But no, the second fold usually doesn't bother me at all.
He's a pretty big looking colt. Tell us what he's doing on the track.
He's been very good. He was down in Florida. He liked that, the bigger track. Here, the only thing we've done since we came home is take his head up. And he was wearing a Murphy blind and a head pull on the right. It's time to take that Murphy blind off. Horses come from the bigger track. They can tend to run out on them long stretches, but here on the half, they tend to run in the turns. And the Murphy's making him run in. So his next training, the Murphy will come off.
I think you mentioned on Harness Racing Update with Heather Wilder that he could be a little lazy when he's jogging. Is that something that you still see up here in Ohio?
Yes, he's not your typical seaside yet that gets very aggressive. So we kind of like that. It's much nicer to jog and train one that's not grabby and too excited. So you have to make him do his work, but he'll do it when you tell him.
And there is Hagrid down by the seaside. Stopping by another colt pacer, we have Mr. Smarty Pants, a summa cum laude colt out of Roll Up the Rim, another roll with Joe mare. You have quite the history, actually, with this colt's family.
Yes, we had his half-sister, Hey Mama, that equaled the world record as a 3-year-old at Northfield. Had the other sister, she's 4 now. She got a late start, had a couple injuries, but she got really good at later in the year, last year, and then we wound up selling her, but turned into a good horse for us.
We've talked a lot about today how much that mare matters to you. Taking a look, it seems like Roll Up the Rim only made less than $10,000 in her career. I guess, why did you even start looking at her foals?
What the mare has done herself doesn't always mean much to me. It's what the rest of the family has done. I don't know why it is, but you see a lot of mares that were unraced or didn't do very good turn into really good brood mares. And then you see the great mares that made $1 million or $2 million. A lot of them don't produce for some reason. I don't know if anybody knows why that is. And the mares that made $2 million could have been out of great families. But I don't know if racing that long, that hard does something to them. But I have no problem buying a foal out of a mare that didn't race.
Mr. Smarty Pants, what is he going in right now?
He's been in the 220 area down in Florida. He's only been around 25 up here. We've only trained twice here, but a pretty nice horse. He knows right from the start, he knew what training and going is. So he's been an easy horse to train so far.
I see we've got some tires in his stall. Does he have any corks?
He's a stall walker. So he's a Ridgeling right now, and he's on the list to get gelded here pretty soon, and hopefully that will take care of that.
Now, we talked a little bit about off camera, the Ridgeling, and maybe some of your concerns. Can you go a little bit into detail with that?
He is a Ridgeling, and that's probably why he stayed a stud longer, hoping that other testicle would drop, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to. But one, if that thing gets to pinching them, they can get a little mean. and I think he's starting to go that way. And two, they can get a little sore on the track, and you can't find it, and it's not in a leg, a joint. So we geld them, and a lot of times that will bring it down to that.
Have you had any concerns of soreness yet?
Not with him, no. His only reason for being a gelding is he's starting to get too ornery.
And there we go, Mr. Smarty Pants, a $35,000 purchase out of the Ohio Selected Sale. 7C's, another colt pacer down by the seaside out of Wanda Bayama, a Western Ideal mare. It's a $35,000 purchase out of Harrisburg. Actually, I think it was purchased under the name Bat Phone.
Right, yes. One of the owners didn't like Bat Phone, and he got with the rest of the owners, and somehow they came up with 7C's, and that's what his name is now.
I know we just talked a little bit about superstitions with our last couple of horses. Some trainers don't like to change names.
You know, I've never been too superstitious, but I know my dad and uncle, they didn't. They never liked to change names, but they had a lot of superstitions. The older generation, I don't think you find that as much anymore.
How is he rigged?
He is very plainly rigged. I don't even think he wears a head pole, no boots. He's actually been a pleasant surprise. He was, when we bought him at Harrisburg, we got him for $35 because I don't think he was really gotten ready for the sale. And he was kind of really thin in the chest, a little bit thin in the hind end. He's filled out, not as much as maybe I'd like, but on the track, he's gotten pretty good. He's another one that's not aggressive for a seaside, but he'll go when you want him to. So far, he's doing really well.
When you're at the sales, what kind of confirmation points are you looking at?
Well, you know, when you're not spending a lot of money, like the one colt we gave, whatever, 85 or 90, you want a lot to be right. When you're given 35, you got to understand that there's not going to be everything perfect. So, of course, I'd like for this horse to have a bigger chest and hind end, but he didn't. But everything else was okay. He stood straight. So I didn't worry much about him having a thin chest, and like I said, so far he doesn't even wear knee boots yet.
And there we go, 7C's, another down by the seaside. Our first gelding to be featured today, Maserati Marv, a well-said gelding out of Meadowland Lindy Lou, a Stonebridge Regal mare. This is our first homebred, I think maybe our only homebred that we'll visit with today by the Hoovlers. What can you tell us about Maserati Marv?
This is our first horse with Skip and Tammy and Brett. One of my owners, Milt Lehman, bought in with them, and he came to me. The only reason he's really a gelding is he's very spooky. If you watch his video, he wears a shadow roll. That's new. He didn't have that on in Florida. But he's starting to see a lot of things. And he was spooky down there, but usually in the mile, he's been pretty good. But even down there, the last couple trainings, he'd make a break once in a while just looking at something. So he did it here, so he's got a shadow roll now. But other than being spooky, he's got a lot of quick speed to him. You know, even though we're only going in 20, you can kind of tell the ones that are quick. And, you know, maybe it's because he gets spooked that he's so quick. But good gaited, nice, carries himself well, doesn't wear a boot yet. So he's doing well.
Is there anything you do as a trainer to help them get over that spookiness?
Well, I like to not cover them up. I like to keep them open. I like most of my 2-year-olds all wear blinds. I don't like to cover them up too much because I want them to see it and get used to it. But he's starting to go the other way. He didn't seem to do anything wrong even though he saw something and got spooked, but now he's starting to, so we got to cover him up.
And of course, we hope that everything makes it to the track, but when do you use your judgment and say, oh, they need a year to mature?
Well, that's up to the horse. It could be now, or it could be July when you're ready to go and all of a sudden something's not right. You have to wait. One of my friends, Paul Reed, always tells me, you either have to wait on them or they're going to make you wait on them. So the earlier you wait, the better usually.
Maserati Marv, our gelding by Well Said. Our next stop is a 2-year-old colt pacer, Dragginindapennys. This is a summa cum laude colt out of a Dragon Again mare, Penny's Dragon. Another one that is the first foal out of a mare, actually.
Yeah, we bought him in Lexington. He's Kentucky and Ohio, and he was a summa cum laude, something that we were looking for. Probably gave a little more than I'd like to have, but I've had really good luck with the Dragon Again mares. So, you know, he was one that fit the bill, and luckily the owners could afford to get him, but we really like him. He's been one of our best colts. Now he's starting to get a little bit aggressive, especially you move him from the back, he'll just take off on his own, or if you have him on the front and he hears them coming, he's ready to go. So he did get earplugs already.
I was going to mention that. I believe you told that to Heather. Anything else about him that might be a little quirky or you've rigged differently?
No, I think he might wear a tie down. Other than that, no, he's been pretty good. There hasn't been much problems with him.
Are there any characteristics that you're noticing with the summa cum laudes that you actually like more than the down by the seasides?
The only thing I would say so far is the 3 of the 4 have been very racy without being hot, getting too excited. Now again, this one's starting to, but especially if you have him sitting in a hole or you're on the front, until they come after him, he's very relaxed. But once you move him or you're on the front and they come, then he's ready to roll. But they've been probably more professional, maybe earlier than the seasides.
When you're going in your training groups, I guess how large are you? How many are you taking out at once?
Here I try to only go 4, because the one set in 5th or 6th here would be a long way back. You know, I don't want them out too early. So it'd be a little too far back coming around the last turn. Where in Florida, we would have 5 or 6 in a group. If we did that, we would just move the one maybe set in 3rd, would move a little bit earlier. We would try not to move too earlier, especially in Florida, because with that long stretch, now all of a sudden you're going faster than you're supposed to be going.
And there is our colt pacer, Dragginindapennys. Our next stop is a gelding pacer, Cipher, a down by the seaside out of Fine Art, a Better's Delight mare. This is another purchase out of Harrisburg. How's he been so far? He
had to become a gelding. He just wasn't paid attention to much other things other than training. So once he got gelded, he's much better. He's still pretty ornery, especially jogging. Going before you turn to go the first trip, he's just seeing things and taking off on you. But since gelding, he's training much better. So he's coming around.
When you do geld one, how instant is that shift in demeanor?
Usually I would say it would take at least 2 weeks, then some might be a month. So it just, again, depending on the horse.
Mm-hmm. What kind of grain? Do we have any supplements? Or how do we feed our horses? I do feed supplements.
I feed a powder for livers. I have a lot of problems with livers. So we feed, every horse gets a liver supplement. We have a few other things for different reasons, but we try to stay away from the iron supplements, because I think it is part of the reason for livers. So we try to stay away from that as much as we can, but there's a few things that go on, but I'm not a big believer in putting a lot of things on their grain, because the next thing you know, then they're not eating.
If you do make that decision to add, take away, is that your decision, or does it play into the caretaker? What's that communication like?
The caretaker will tell me how they're eating. If they're a good eater, I'm more apt to put something on their feed. Usually we pull blood a lot. Now, of course, 2-year-olds have not yet. But if we pull their blood and we see something's not right, then we might find a supplement to help fix that.
And Cipher actually does have a half sibling that maybe some of our viewers can recognize. Culture, not an Ohio bred, actually was a by Captain Treacherous, but it's made quite a bit of money. When you're looking again at those pedigrees, how much do you care about siblings?
Well, the siblings, to me, that's what you're looking for. The mare, what she's produced, what the foals, whether they were colts or fillies. Of course, you would like the fillies to race well too. We don't hold it against the mare, especially if it's the first colt out of a mare that's had a couple fillies. whether they raced or not. If they raced, that's a plus, but we don't hold it against the mares if the fillies didn't race.
There is our down by the seaside gelding, Cipher. A down by the seaside colt, Apex Blue Chip out of Obvious Blue Chip, another roll with Joe mare.
Yeah, again, we really like the roll with Joe, so it was one that catches your eye when you see him on the page. I don't really remember the mare, but we gave a lot of money for this horse, so it has to be pretty good on the dam side. But another one, it's the seasides are maybe a little more laid back this year than normal for me, and he's one that you got to make him pay attention, but he can do it.
So he is, or was, a $110,000 purchase. As you mentioned, maybe a little bit more on the expensive side for you. What kind of pressure do you feel because of that price tag?
Well, we've had a few that were expensive, and some turned out and some didn't. So once we get them home from the sale, I really don't pay attention to it no more. They're horses, and you have to deal with who they are, whatever problems they have, and what they cost really in the end doesn't mean anything.
What's his demeanor been like on the track?
He's very laid back too, which is again uncommon for a seaside, but I think when we especially get the training faster, gets behind the gate a couple times, then the seaside will start coming out in some of these that are a little more laid back. So right now the laid back is a good thing.
Roger had asked you about the qualifiers coming up in just a couple of months here at Delaware. Do you put them behind the gate before then?
Yes. Here, not as much, but luckily in Florida, they have a half mile inside the mile. And about late February, the starting gate comes out 2 days a week, and we get to put them behind them. And especially this day and age, it doesn't take them long. A couple times behind it. You could have one that's really spooky that might take 4 or 5 times, but anymore, that's odd. Most of these guys behind it a couple times, they know what's going on.
A down by the seaside colt, Apex Blue Chip. Our first filly to be featured this afternoon is Adam Heartmother, a down by the seaside out of High Reward, a Yankee cruiser, and once again, actually a homebred. I was mistaken.
Yes, this we had her mother. She was a pretty nice 2-year-old, a Yankee cruiser mare. I think she was 3rd in the final to Sire Stakes, maybe 2nd here at Delaware, going for like 120. A very nice horse. She didn't come back and got hurt as a 3-year-old, but was such a good gaited, and she is actually out of a really good family. And so the owners decided to keep her since they own Seaside and use her as one of the brood mares. We had her older sister, and she had had an injury as a baby out in the field, trained downgrade, and then got sore, so she didn't make it. But this one, right now, there's no problems with this one. This is a very nice filly.
What is she like on the track?
Again, another one very laid back. So I've got like a different crop of Seasides this year. But again, I think when they get the racing, she'll get it.
Kind of going back to the rest of her family, is it obvious that is she like her mother? Is she like her sister?
She's probably more like her mother than her sister. Her sister was more aggressive and wanted to go, where her mother was a very laid-back mare too, and so far this one has been.
Do you find the down by the seaside fillies are much different than the colts?
Maybe they're not as aggressive as the colts.
And there was our first filly, a down by the seaside, Adam Heartmother. Another down by the seaside gelding, Circus, out of Loving Caroline, an Art Major mare. This one actually does have quite a pedigree behind him.
We found that the Seasides cross well with the Art Major mares too. I don't remember the mare and what all she's done, but I think he was like a $50,000 yearling at Lexington, but he had a great video. He was really long-legged, moved really well. He looked good in person, so I thought I'd take a shot. I bought him without actually any partners already in on him, and as soon as I bought him, they were texting and calling, and a couple of them were at the sale, so he sold out probably within a half an hour of buying him.
I would say, so kind of going back to that pedigree, He's a half sibling to 3 different sub 50 pacers. And actually, one of those mares was Divine Caroline, who our viewers might remember, who won the Breeders' Crown in 2015.
I should have remembered that, shouldn't I? But I did stake this horse. I staked a few others to the Breeders' Crown. He's a big colt. He doesn't get around the turns as good. I don't know if it's necessarily soreness or just him. He's not the smartest horse in the world yet, so he doesn't steer the greatest. So he's Kentucky eligible too. He may see more of Kentucky than he does Ohio.
How do you structure a horse's season when they are dual eligible?
The ones that are Kentucky eligible, you have to keep that in the back of your mind. It never hurts to start them out in Ohio, especially if they get around the smaller tracks good. Training good at the time, because hopefully you get enough points to either make the final or the consolation, and then go to Kentucky and make a final down there.
And so tell me about his demeanor. With the name Circus, hopefully he's not like that when he's on the track.
No, that came with him. But no, I actually is a little bit silly around the tractors. He's very tough when it comes to a tractor. He will take off and go the other way quick. When no tractor's around, he's an easy horse to drive.
And there is Circus down by the seaside. Our next stop is a down by the seaside filly, Moonlight Ride, out of Blaze and Grace, a sweet Lou mare. Brian, this is another family that you know very well.
Yes, I had her mother and her older sister. The mother was a very nice filly. She was just a notch below the best fillies. She got a record of 51. Didn't make a lot of money, but was just a nice filly to have, and luckily they kept them over and bred her. The first one was not a nice big filly. She was smaller, kind of chubby, didn't have much interest last year. She's racing this year, and she's doing okay, but this filly seems way different. She's a taller, longer-legged, more aggressive than that filly, and probably my best Ohio filly, or maybe her and Adam Hartmother are probably close to the same.
When we talk about being aggressive, if we have some viewers that aren't familiar with what that means, how would you describe that for a 2-year-old?
They just get a little too racy. She wears an ear hood. I've been taking it off the train, but to keep her calm and quiet, we wear an ear hood so she doesn't get too aggressive. But, she's been pretty good in the miles, so we've been taking it off. Her feet bug her a little already, so we just switched to some pads. And I'm going to go a little easy for a while till she gets sounded up and used to the pads. And I've had great luck with them. So when this one gets 100% again, I think this is a really nice horse.
When I was doing some research on Moonlight Ride, her dam is actually double gated. Are you familiar with that?
No.
She has, like you said, a mark in 151 and a piece on the pace, but also has a mark in the trot as well.
I didn't know that. That must have happened. I know they bred these 2 mares and then they sold her. Somebody must have put her back in training.
I guess, any concerns with her trying to go to a pace?
No.
Or, excuse me, a trot?
No. She's really good gated, jogs on the pace all the time. So, nah, does everything the way you want a horse to do.
And there we go, Moonlight Ride down by the seaside. Our next stop is Mingle In Dingle, a filly pacer by Dancing Yankee out of Sebring, Blue Chip, a Western Terror mare. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this name? Quite a little bit of an interesting story.
Yeah, one of the main guys at VIP Internet Stable is Ed O'Connor, and he told me he went on vacation in Australia to a city named Mingle, and he said they went out one night, were mingling with the other people, and had such a good time. He liked the vacation so well, he named the horse Mingle In Dingle.
So what has she been doing on the track?
She's been very good. Now we've had to slow down just lately. When we left Florida, she popped a curb, so we got it froze when we got up here. So she's going to be a little behind later, but she was right with them all from 18 to 20 when we were in Florida. So got a great attitude, wants to be a racehorse, doing good.
Do you train your fillies with your colts, or do you try to keep them separate?
I do. I train them together, mainly because I mix the grooms up. I try to have only one groom's horse in each set, And if I mixed it all colts and all fillies, then some grooms would have 3 in a set, and I try not to do that to them. So, especially until we really get to stepping on the gas, but you know, we've all had in the past where some of the fillies were better than the colts.
Now, Mingle In Dingle is a half-sibling to Racing Rampage, who's made over $500,000 in his lifetime, but I believe she was only a $9,000 purchase. Any idea why?
My only guess is she's a Dancing Yankee, which has been a nice stud, but he hasn't had that one big superstar. So I think people are looking at the C-sides, the summa cum laudes, the catch the fires. And I would say she fell through the cracks. Honestly, I wasn't looking at her myself, and Tom Janes, the other guy at VIP, called her, texted, I'm setting it to sale. She's only about 4 more horses to go in the ring. He asked, have you looked at her? And I said, no, I'll go look at her. He said, go look at her. If you like her, the stable will, VIP will buy her for themselves. And he'd actually told me to go like $25,000. And we got her for $9,000, and I was kind of shocked because she does have good conformation, and Racing Rampage is a very nice horse. He was trained here in Delaware. He's out in New York doing really good, so I was surprised we got her for that.
And there we go, filly pacer, Mingle In Dingle. Our last stop is a summa cum laude gelding, Sumas Legacy. This is a very big colt.
He is good size, but he's one of them, even though he's big, he gets around the track here very good. And then, again, I've only trained here twice, but he has no problems with that. So the only problem he is he's very spooky. Even here in the barn, it's worse than on the track. On the track, he's not bad at all. In the barn here, he can hear something, or if you move too quick around him, he gets pretty excited.
When it comes to those training groups, who is he partnered with? Anybody we've talked about today?
I'd have to look at the sheet and remember. I don't remember.
That's where Jenny comes in,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So beyond that, what can you tell us?
He's one of those summa cum laudes that have been good from the very beginning. He, most of the time when we train, I'll train in one section and I move to another section the next week. Whatever section I'm at, those group of horses are usually on the front because I want to control the speed. And this horse, you know, that might be 5 trainings before I get back to this horse. When I don't train him, in Florida, every time I looked up, this horse was coming at the end every time. And never done anything wrong. He stayed pacing every time and never had a problem down there. So he's done everything right, even though he's very spooky and you have to be careful with him. He's had an ear hood since early when we got him back from being broke. He's had an ear hood just to keep him quiet.
I was going to ask how he's rigged.
Just the ear hood and blinds. He may eventually have to go to an open bridle because I'm afraid that once you start really going faster, he could get aggressive.
And there was Sumas Legacy by Summa Cum Laude out of Unique Legacy, a Real Desire mare.
Well, that wraps up another edition of Freshman Focus. We'd like to thank Brian Brown and all his employees for making it very easy for this edition to be videotaped. We hope that you'll join us again next week, same time, same location for Freshman Focus.
This has been Freshman Focus, a look at 2-year-olds in training across the Buckeye State. Freshman Focus is presented by Eldorado Scioto Downs. Racing begins May 8th with the next generation July 5th. By Sugar Valley Farm. Looking for your next quality standardbred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. By Prolific Equine, managing stallions and mares to create champions. By the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, caring down to a science. And by Wire to Wire Wealth, strategies tailored to your needs. Freshman Focus is a production of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.